I'm Rakesh Kishan, Managing Principal at Trascent, and I'm delighted to be joined by Vinny Sanchez from DLA Piper. Vinny is the co-lead of the technology and sourcing practice and partner at DLA, and also my colleague Kevin Rang, who's Executive Managing Director at Trascent. Today we'll be talking about technology, how the real estate sector has become more technology-enabled, technology-driven, and the next generation of value in this industry is going to be coming to the integration of people-process technology in a way we haven't seen before. So Vinny, are you seeing what I'm seeing, that technology is really enabling the next generation of value for clients in real estate? And have you seen this in other sectors?
Yes, absolutely, Rakesh. In business process outsourcing, such as the outsourcing of finance and accounting or HR functions, we are definitely seeing the evolution from labor arbitrage-driven deals to more integration of technology, especially with Gen AI and AI-enabled solutions, and shifting it from sort of the carbon labor that has been prevalent in the industry to digitally labor delivery models throughout.
Okay, Kevin. Vinny just mentioned, and we saw this at our Paris conference, clients were talking about technology, some of them already using robots, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But let's just talk about technology. Vinny just mentioned that in BPO we saw the supplier partners are differentiating themselves more on technology than on labor. Do you also foresee this happening in real estate? And if so, what are the implications in terms of how clients need to manage the risks and opportunities that come with getting a more technology-enabled solution versus a labor-enabled solution?
That is a great question, Rakesh. So yes, we are starting to see more and more leveraging of technology in the FM space, and I think that's going to continue at a greater pace as we go forward. So as we implement more and more technology, whether that's Internet of Things, et cetera, it creates more opportunity for cybersecurity breaches and things like that. So that's going to be a primary issue. It will reduce costs, right? And so that is a great positive. The other issue, though, unfortunately, is with a lot of the suppliers out there, they've had a lot of acquisitions. They have a lot of existing technology that doesn't necessarily sync up. So I think we need to see some of that happen. But once that happens, once I think suppliers align on what their future technology offering is going to be, I think we're going to see some significant efficiencies and value in this space.
Let me just add to that. We're going to see more of an emphasis during the transition phase, not just on knowledge transfer, but also now integration and configuration of technology in that phase. And so the way we approach these contracts has to be slightly reoriented more towards the technology side. Rights to data will become a big aspect of the negotiations. Suppliers are going to want to do analytics on client data. Clients are going to want to make sure that their data is used in the proper means, and also maybe there's opportunities to get value out of that. Maybe the commercial model takes into consideration the value proposition that suppliers might get to be actually to use this data. And then there's the portability issue, because you have, as you and I talked about many times, sort of this aspect of vendor lock-in, right? With human labor, right? We talk about the ability to have the human labor be hired by new suppliers during, a resourcing opportunity. But what's it going to look like when it's all technology enabled? What's the portability look like? And how much more difficult it's going to be because you spent all this time in transition implementing this technology. Now you've got to pull it out and maybe stand up somebody else's. So there's all these different issues that we're going to have to deal with.
In our conference in Paris, there was discussion by multiple clients around the fact they're using robots for service delivery. It's in security, it's in other areas. Humanoid robots are being introduced into society by multiple manufacturers today. They're already playing functions in hotels. They're moving into more mainstream society. And the cost point is becoming much more affordable. Do you foresee humanoid robots entering the workforce in a manner that may affect the real estate sector? And what are the issues with robots that would be, say, different than using a supplier system for space planning or maintenance management or lease administration versus a humanoid robot?
So let me tackle that first. So first of all, let's just level set that robots have been around for a long time, right? Robots are not new. What makes this unique, where we are now, is mobility, right? So robots have been in production, as you said, for years and years and years, but those are typically fixed, right? They're not moving around and capable of interacting in a changing environment. The existing robots in production are typically if-then type creatures. They do repetitive motions over and over, and that's all they do. So now we're moving into an era of mobile, as you said, humanoid robots, which are starting to enter the workforce. And I think it will be radically disruptive. As we talked earlier about cybersecurity and some of those issues, I mean, just think about these humanoid robots that have cameras, that have sensors that hear, look through walls and detect heat. The data that those robots are gathering is amazing and astronomical and can bring value, detecting things that maybe a human would miss.
Humanoids present opportunities that carbon labor cannot do, right? So if you think about in a facility where you might need 10 technicians, the opportunity for savings could be significant, where you could reduce that to 2 humanoids, because they then can be programmed to have all these different skill sets and be available to work 24/7.
Now, I don't think it's simply a matter of savings. I think this is really an issue of investment for efficiency, productivity, resilience, because a humanoid robot can have in its memory banks all of the technical SOPs, compliance requirements, previous equipment history, capacity plans, building plans, connectivity to building sensors in a manner that no human can ever achieve. So they become, in essence, very powerful tools. And I think the introduction of this technology could be revolutionary, perhaps disruptive to an industry that has relied heavily on labor-based solutions. If in our conference we heard this is a people industry, this is a relationship-driven industry, but as we move more towards technology and automation and now robotics, that assumption is going to get challenged. There are 2 schools of thought. Outsource people process technology fully to a third-party vendor who will then provide FM as a service, real estate as a service, or outsource processes and people to a third-party supplier partner, but the technology will be provided by the client.
I actually think that when you see what's happening in the market in other sectors, in BPO and others, that we're moving away from the ownership piece and more into the rental piece, because frankly, the technology vendors are pushing clients into this uncomfortable zone of, we're not going to allow you to have on-prem technology anymore. You have to now move to a cloud-enabled SaaS solution. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the on-prem vendors have said, we're going to retire support for those and move everyone into these cloud-based, solutions. So if anything, FM, as it starts to adopt more technology, is going to come in at a point where it's not the ownership, it's going to come in at the point where moving into the cloud. And so I think companies are going to have less opportunity in the market to actually own and control. And that's where I think we go back into the suppliers have an opportunity to still be relevant in this space.
So Kevin, where do you see in today's environment, do you have cases and examples of where clients are already using robots as part of their service delivery in corporate real estate?
Yes. I mean, I think we're at the frontier, and I think we're going to see rapid acceleration over the next 1 to 3 years. There's some anecdotal humanoid use cases that we've seen, but the ones that I've seen clients use are typically in the security area, where there's mobile security robots that are more recording, not really actively getting involved in an incident, but more there to be a mobile
monitoring,
et cetera. The other area I've seen are really, I would just call it more like sensor-based use cases. So monitoring temperatures, monitoring levels of gases, et cetera, these robot dogs. But we're at the beginning. I mean, I think what we see today is there are some lessons being learned, which are great, which we need. But I think the next 3 years, we're going to see humanoid robots replacing manual labor in probably initially in more hazardous environments, but down the road, just from the cost play, we'll probably see it in most CRE related tasks.
We've seen security robotic dogs doing perimeter monitoring, security checks, intrusion checks. We're seeing them in cleaning. You see them at airports, you see them in buildings. They're providing a cleaning function, trash receptacles. I'm excited to see where we will see them next, and I think this is a very exciting time for the industry, both from a technology enablement of processes, services, greater access to data, but also the advent of AI-embedded humanoid robots.
And I think, Rakesh, that statement can't be overemphasized, right? Why is this all happening? What is making this work? Like we said before, robots have been around for a long time. It's the fact that there's embedded AI in those robots that makes all the difference in the world. That's why we're having this conversation. That's why they're going to be used in CRE, embedded into a mobile robot, and it can do things that these former if-then type programming just isn't capable of doing.
And there's such great opportunity right now too. If you look at what's happening in the market, there's such an emphasis on data centers to enable, empower, right, all this AI out there, right? And so data centers are managed by humans. And if you actually think about what some of the issues or points of failure have been in data centers, it's been human issues. So now think about the opportunities that could be presented by having a humanoid do a lot of the tech work within a data center, and the data centers need to be up and available 24/7. Therefore, how many shifts do you have now in the data center? You know, maybe 2 or 3 shifts of humans where you could have one humanoid doing it 24/7 and available.
So Vinny, as companies going to rely more upon technology-enabled processes and technology-enabled services for real estate, what are the unique considerations that poses for how these contracts and deals are structured with suppliers?
Rakesh, I think it's 3 areas. One is rights to data and rights to conduct analytics on that data. The second thing is operational resiliency. It's been in corporate real estate, it's been focused on a human-centric delivery model. We need to start thinking about the technology-enabled delivery model and how we look at business continuity and operational resiliency differently. And the third thing is risk allocation. From an insurance standpoint, again, we've been very focused on human aspects of delivery. We need to start thinking more about cyber and other aspects of technology-enabled delivery. And then ultimately, like, what does our limitations of liability look like and our indemnities look like in a very tech-enabled delivery model?
Well, I completely agree with Vinny in what he said. I really focus on 2 things that I think are going to be impacted by technology. One is the financial model. Because again, we discussed earlier, is it better to buy, rent, et cetera? Well, once we get to that point and we make that decision, we're going to have to build that into the model, right? So if embedded AI is rented, as an example, most likely that won't be charged on pass-through model. What is the biggest cost in CRE today, generally speaking, with facility maintenance? It's labor. And that labor is being charged on a pass-through model primarily today. If we have embedded AI, we have technology delivering those services, the pricing model is going to change. So that's number one. Number two, in our recent conference, we heard a client speak about an event in the UK involving a drone landing on a roof or hovering over the roof and basically being able to get into the network that way. When you start bringing embedded AI into your facilities, places where in many cases companies won't let you bring in phone, the security risks are going to be significant. They're going to have to be addressed. So I think that's where the attention is going to be.
Vinny, I'm really excited about the joint survey that DLA Piper and Trascent are conducting on AI and the readiness of the corporate real estate sector to adopt AI. What are the opportunities, what are the risks that are presented, and how the industry can prepare itself? We would welcome your participation in the survey, and we look forward to hearing from you.